We learned something from the last podcast, and that is Dr. Rob is a history junkie.
Big time.
And in the feedback that came from the Damon Benning episode, Rob, there's a lot of history junkies out there like you, because they were like, we're all over the history podcast.
Well, did you see the one tweet I put about I think the guy's like a college professor. No, he's a lawyer out in Virginia who purchased a home that was for sale because I think he and his wife suspected that it was a Revolutionary War fort that historians have been looking for decades.
Was it?
And all they needed to do was get in there. So they purchased it from this little old lady who finally sold it, got in there, started stripping plaster off the walls, and discovered underneath a nearly 200-year-old, more than that, 250-year-old Revolutionary War fort.
So you geeked out on that.
Oh, my God. He's got this. The guy's got this entire Twitter thread, photographic thread, where he goes through and breaks down how they've kind of been renovating and stripping everything off, clothing they're finding in old attics that have been sealed off for decades, stuff like that.
Is it haunted? I'd think that'd be haunted, man.
Well, I don't know. They haven't talked about that yet, but I would be shocked if it wasn't.
Of course, we are in the off season. That means we are doing interviews, and we need to welcome to the basement the one, the only ESPN baseball commentator, runs Collier's International in Omaha, the one, the only Kyle Peterson.
I mean, he's a Stanford grad. He's got to be kind of a geek for history stuff.
So now, see,
you don't get out of Stanford without
he's a
being
Stanford
knowledgeable.
Grad. That means I'm the dumbest fuck in this thing, man. I am the dumbest fucker sitting here.
To be fair, it took me 8 years to graduate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but you got it done.
Well, I did get it.
A lot of guys go to college for 7 years.
Yep. They've got your degree, not mine.
Now, to be fair, after your junior year, you also got, a $1.4 million signing bonus. You got to play baseball for a little bit.
Yeah, I did. We had to piece it together a little bit after that. Yeah, and then the shoulder stopped working, and he went, you know what, maybe I ought to go back and finish this thing up. The whole baseball thing isn't going to work anymore.
It's funny because, I remember when you were drafted, and you were my intern at KPTM. Oh, that's my claim to fame. Kyle was my intern. But, with NIL today, and I'm just jumping right into this, you see all these guys making money. When you got your big signing bonus, and was it 1.4? Was that about?
It was.
1.4.
Yeah.
How did you handle 1.4 million at 21 years old?
I bought a ring.
A wedding ring, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did something smart. That's good.
I remember my dad looked at me. He's like, "You're going to do what? You just say, yeah, I know. No, I had wanted a 4Runner, so I bought a 4Runner. And that was about it.
Toyota, that's a sensible vehicle.
Yeah, I wanted this car since I was 16 years old. So bought that and then put the rest to work. Probably, had a little bit too much fun. I tell you what I had done. In high school, I don't remember who brought the bet up, but the bet was if I was ever a first rounder, I had to fly everybody to Vegas, all my high school buddies. And at the time, you're like, yeah, whatever. Well, then it actually happens. And the calls were not necessarily, hey, congrats on getting drafted. It was, when the hell are we going to Vegas? And it didn't take long. So I think I took 12 guys.
So you had to fly everybody to Vegas. Did you have to pay for the whole weekend?
Put them up. Flew into Vegas, put them up. And then whatever they did after that was on them. But yeah, so I took a whole crew out there.
Now, your agent was Scott Boras, correct?
It was.
So was Boras going, no, you're not going to do this?
No, I didn't bring him into that conversation. That one I left out. He had already done his part. So no, that one was on me. I opened my mouth and it was great, man. I ended up there was a few more close friends that I thought I had that just ended up in Vegas. So I was there. All right, great. You're coming too. Jump on.
All prep grads or not?
All prep guys. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was your phone ringing before the draft or after the draft?
No, it was. Well, there was no cell phones, right? So, but I was in town because I got drafted when we were playing the series. And there was a few of them there, and we're in the middle of it trying to win the whole damn thing. And they're coming up going, hey, when are we going to Vegas? I'm like, dude, I haven't even signed. not even signed.
What the hell's that? You guys hear that?
You help our elderly to have food and medicine.
And you help us evacuate.
You got a video going on your computer there, Trav. You got to
push. But what are we doing over here? I thought this was like.
And we thank
I have
you
no
for the
idea what
message
that is.
and for your trust.
No.
To make it easier for you to support Ukrainians.
No.
We did.
Where is
How
that
we
coming
really
from?
know what you're
Apparently,
looking
we're
at on the
supporting
internet.
it. You need to just close all your windows.
I am.
That was
weird.
awesome. I know you got like 13 cameras here, but seeing you frantically try to figure out what was happening right there and just closing every single window.
And
No, not that one. I don't want that one out there.
The thing is, I don't think it went on the recording. So because you can only hear it in the headphones, so I don't think it went on the tape. So people are going to be like, well, what are they
are you
even
guys
talking about?
talking about?
What are they
What are
talking
you talking about?
And we're not going to edit that out. I mean, we're just going to show it as it's for real.
That was kind of funny.
There you go.
Oh man! So where were we? Oh, you were. Yeah, you were trying to win it all because
College World Series.
That's when when the draft was taking place during the College World Series. That has since changed. Do you like that? I mean,
I like it better than then. I mean, I literally got drafted on the field during batting practice doing the bucket. So I had pitched before. So during batting practice, I had to be the guy that got all the balls and ran them in. But yeah, I mean, our SID came running out and said, "Hey, Milwaukee just took you," and then we played Auburn like an hour later. It was an interesting day, and thankfully they've changed it because I mean, think about this, and we've talked about this in the Major League draft before. But can you imagine the NFL draft taking place an hour before the Rose Bowl?
Yeah,
like there's no, and you're trying to because you're negotiating. I mean, you've got, are you going to take that? And that was kind of the night before. It wasn't necessarily that day. Like if we take you here, will you take this? Football and basketball would never. You're going to do that during the Final Four? You'd never have a draft during the Final Four. But baseball had it at that point. Thankfully, now it's moved to where they do it on All-Star Weekend, and that one we've been able to do that show for the last few years. That's at least. But your season's done. You're not worrying about it. I remember Dansby Swanson got drafted. He was a first or second pick. I don't remember what it was that year. Like 5 minutes after their super regional game. So you're playing at the time the most important game of your entire life. And literally sometimes during those games, there'd be a guy come down to the dugout and go, "Hey, the Cubs just called. Will you take X?" Like he's due up third. I mean, that's the way
that's mind-blowing that they did it at that point. It was, I mean, it's adult dollars, obviously. Yeah. Because the closest example I'd have to this, so one of the guys I work with is Monte Cristo. Yeah. His son Drew is a pitcher for Nebraska. And when Drew graduated high school, the draft that spring, or summer, I guess, watching them go through that same process, because it's sort of this, well, you come up with a number. If the number is good enough, you'll take the offer and get drafted, because they talk about it beforehand. There's kind of this pre-negotiation now, it seems. And if the number's not good enough, or the draft position's not good enough, okay, I'm taking the scholarship to college and I'm going to go play college ball. And so I'm sitting there thinking about what you're telling me right now. And like I said, the context I have is Drew going through that process and watching Monty and Drew, and you basically get a lawyer on retainer. You can't sign with an agent, but you're working with a lawyer who acts as an advisor, going through that type of process. And I'm sitting there going, what you're telling me right now, wait a second, that was happening during and between games in essentially what is the NCAA baseball playoff.
So how is that not a distraction for a player? Were you distracted?
It's got to be a huge distraction.
Oh yeah, I got bombed. I mean,
I remember
booze bomb, but yeah, thanks.
I think it's still going.
It's not fair to say that one had anything to do with the other. I mean, LSU was loaded that year, but it's for some guys, it may be the most important financial decision you make in your life. I mean, depending on what happens after that. And you're 21 years old and you're playing.
For most guys, it's
at home. Yeah. And so I remember the night before. I mean, I had talked to the Brewers, called that night and said, if you're there at 13, we're going to take you at 13. We didn't talk numbers. And I was fortunate because Scott had, Brandon Larson, who actually hit a home run off me in the series, Larson went like 15th to the Reds. And I went 13th, and Scott had Larson, and Scott called and said, hey, don't sign. Just wait. Let me get Larson done. And I promise you the number's going to change, because the Brewers had said, hey, we'll pay you whatever market is. Well, he went and got Larson more money. than he was supposed to get in that spot, and then everything changed, and I signed 2 days later. But that was because I don't know how it goes in different sports, but baseball standpoint, you're paying 5% of what your signing bonus is. I mean, Scott made me a hell of a lot more than that in a week just by saying, hey, I know what I can get with the Reds. Just hang out. Once we get that deal done, then we'll get yours done.
Wait, did you even balk at that when he said don't sign? Were you like, what do you mean don't sign?
Oh, dude, I remember when they came in the house. They came in the house and they give you this contract because there's probably some guys that sign it. And the first number is there, and it was like $1,060,000 or something. And I'm 21 going, oh, my God, like, you don't want me to sign this? You're shitting me? Like, no, we're sitting in my living room. My dog's sitting there looking at me. Even he's like, you dumbass. They're offering you $1 million. Like, sign the thing. And so you got to act in some way, like kind of, that's really nice of you. We're going to take some time to really think this over. And then the guy leaves. And you're like, what the hell was I doing? Like, what if they come back and say, you know what, never mind. Actually, we're just kidding.
Was that Sal Bando at the time? Was he the GM?
It was Sal. Yeah, it was Sal. Awesome guy. Wow. Awesome guy. Yeah, it didn't work out so well for the Brewers. The old return on investment on that one was not the best that they had hoped for in the first round. But, yeah, it was an interesting process. Well, you went through it. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, well, and the whole market value thing, I mean, so that happened with me and my agent and now we weren't talking
what round did you go in?
I was fourth round,
okay.
Which it was not $1 million. Which at the time, I should probably clarify, the NFL was the lowest paid professional sports league. I think it still is. Between Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and NFL, I think the NFL is still to this day the lowest paid of the four big sports.
And not
leagues.
guaranteed. I mean, I guess pieces of it are guaranteed.
Yeah. So, but no, my agent did the exact same thing where he was like, hey, we're going to talk about this. We're not going to sign anything right away. And you saw a couple of contracts get offered, and it was like, hey, but this other guy who just signed and he got drafted after Rob, he just signed for X amount more than what you're offering us. He got drafted after Rob. You got to give us more than that because Rob got picked ahead of him, and you're the Giants assistant GM at the time. God damn it. Okay, fine.
Now, did you have an agent?
Yeah. Now, this was post-grad. I mean, this is after the Orange Bowl game. So I'd graduated the year before, and so school's done, eligibility's done. So,
did you graduate in 4 years or 3 years?
4.
All right.
Played 5. I mean, did redshirted and played 4 after the red shirt. So I was there for 5, including my redshirt year there for 5 seasons. But
he could have graduated in 2. I mean,
I'm sure he could have.
He's that smart.
No, I know.
If I didn't play football, I probably could have.
Only you would say that.
Well, I mean,
it's factually accurate.
If you throw summer school and some night classes in, you could pull it off.
How fast could you have done medical school?
Well, no, that's kind of like a set schedule. It's not like you're just like...
If it wasn't set, how fast could you have done it?
Oh, God, if you condense it down, you could do med school in 3. But I'm saying that because they give you like 5 weeks off at Christmas break, and your first 2 summers are essentially off. Fill those in with some classes.
And how long did you have to do a residency? 4?
4 years of residency.
And then 4 years of med school?
Yeah. Okay. So 12 total. And there was a year of grad schools looped in there when I was playing my 5th year. So.
Yeah, but what'd you take? Did you take a full schedule on the grad school?
I had to. So here's the side story. If you graduate in 4 and play that 5th year, you have to take a full load of grad school courses.
Like real courses?
Well, you can take whatever you want, I guess, really, but I was still thinking I'm going to med school, so I did endocrinology and a couple of other science-based courses. So, well, now here's the thing. Here's what
I'll tell you why.
Here's what the real smart kids did. So I had a whole slew of buddies, and all of them were actually super bright guys. So playing football, you get 1 credit hour. It's one single. You play a college sport. Most schools
each year you get a credit hour.
Yeah, you get 1 PE credit hour for playing an intercollegiate sport. And so what guys would do, so the smart guys on the team who could graduate in essentially 4 years would plan this out incredibly intricately so that at the end of 4 years, they would be one elective PE credit hour shy of graduating. Because the rule was if you did graduate like dumbass nerd I did,
then you had to take the full.
Then you had to take you had to be a full-time grad student to be eligible to play that last year of eligibility. If you hadn't graduated yet, you only needed to take the credit hours you needed to graduate. So you had all of these guys who show up for that 5th year, and all they had to do was show up and just play football that fall. Get their one PE credit hour, graduate in December.
Now, did your grad classes transfer to the med school, or are they just all for nothing?
All for nothing. I mean, if I ever wanted to go back and finish a master's, I'm maybe only like 2 semesters shy of a master's.
But you learned. You learned.
I did. It was the knowledge. It was the experience.
There's positives out of it. Yeah, your last semester playing sports and my last semester playing sports were a little bit different academically.
Well, take me through your schedule.
I don't remember the classes. I just remember that we would take finals sometimes in Omaha. My freshman year, we took finals in Omaha because we were on the quarter system, and so everything was late. And so that year, we were taking finals and we got back, and I had already been drafted. I'm like, I don't want to go to finals. I mean, I kind of want to go play golf. So I called one of my professors and I said, will you do me a favor and add my grade up if I don't go to the final? And she's like, are you serious? I've never had anyone answer that question. I said, yes, please just add my grade up if I don't go to the final and let me know what I get. And she called me back like 15 minutes later and she said, you would get a C-. I said, I really enjoyed your class. She goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, I'm not going to be at the final, but I did really enjoy your class. And I got a C- and I passed. And it was my idiot mind at the time because I'm like, I'm going to play forever. And why would I do any of this? And I ended up, it cost me. I had to go back and do essentially a full quarter again because I was a total jackass.
What is your degree in?
Communication.
Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't have anything broadcasting-wise. Like, I did some stuff for the student radio station. Like, I did a weekly football preview show for the whole Pac-10.
That had to have been kind of fun, though. I would have loved something like that.
Yeah, I would be really interested to go back and listen to it again just to see all the idiotic stuff I was.
Yeah, but did you enjoy it?
Oh, God, it was the best.
I bet that was great.
That's why I called him.
True story. And first of all, when did you know you want to be a broadcaster? And I'll never forget, it was my first year at KPTM. I think it was 1994. I think you were just done with your freshman or sophomore year. I get this phone call randomly in the office, and he's like, yeah, this is Kyle Peterson. I go, yeah, I know who you are. He goes, I'm looking for an internship. Okay, sure. If you want an intern, that's great. But, I mean, when did you know you wanted to be a broadcaster?
I mean, I guess I didn't really know it growing up, but I always paid attention to it differently. I mean, I was a Braves fan, and so it was that's when the Braves sucked. But it was either the Braves, the Mets, or the Cubs. I mean, it was the only 3 you could watch all the time. So I'd watch the Brave guys all the time, and it was like Pete Van Wieren and Sutton and Chip Carey's dad. Why am I blanking on this? Skip Carey was doing it. That was, and so that's what I watched, and I don't know. I remember just paying attention to it differently than watching the game, like the way that they presented it in the in and the out and everything else. And then we would screw around on the bench in high school and act like we were calling a game. And it was me and Ben Fogarty, and usually there was a few other idiots sitting next to us, and we would just do it. I don't know why, but there wasn't ever any thought like, hey, this is what I want to do. I just enjoyed doing it. And then ultimately when I got released, and I knew I was going to get released. I had 3 shoulder surgeries. I sucked. It didn't work anymore. And it was spring training of 2003. And I remember I called my dad. I had just got a cell phone like a year or 2 before. And I called my dad before I went in. And the way that they did it, I think maybe I've told you this story, but in spring training, and I was in minor league spring training, but they give you meal money on Mondays. Well, they're not going to give you meal money on Monday if they're going to cut you. So Monday was a cut day. And there was always a guy standing with a clipboard right by the door when you'd walk in. And if you made it past the clipboard,
the Turk,
you're good for the week. Yeah, it's the same thing. But if you don't make it past the clipboard, you know exactly what's going on. So I called my dad when I was outside. I said, hey, I think I'm getting released. I think I'm going to not get past the clipboard. I'm going to walk in. I think I'm getting released. And it was one of the coolest conversations I ever had with my dad, just about like the last however many, 25 years, 22 years, whatever it was, playing baseball and the ride and everything else. And sure as hell, walked in and he said, hey, Reed's got to see you. You didn't want to see Reed. And then you're sitting outside and there's benches and there's like 4 guys sitting out there waiting for the director of player development.
So and all 4 of you know what's happening, right?
Everybody knows what the hell's going on.
How uncomfortable is that?
Nobody talks. I mean, at least in that case, nobody was talking because, it was like waiting to get shot. I mean, you knew exactly what was going to happen when you walked in. And they kind of give you this story of, hey, this isn't working. And I wasn't ready to really accept reality. There was a game in that spring training. We had a Dominican kid named Luis Martinez who pitched a little bit in the big leagues. And I was throwing in a AA game. And I get done, and I felt good. I'm like, all right, this is coming back. Went out 2 or 3 innings, didn't give up any runs. And he brings the pitching chart over to me. He's got this way confused look on his face. He looks at the chart. He looks at me. He looks at the chart. He looks at me. He said, "Did you throw any fastballs?" And I look, and the pitch that I threw that was the fastest was 81 miles an hour.
You were probably throwing that in 6th grade.
Yeah, and at the time, I'm like, hey, this is feeling good. And it was at that time you're like, all right, this ain't going to work.
You couldn't tell you were only throwing 81 miles an hour?
No, I felt good. I felt good, but there was just nothing left. There was absolutely nothing left. And I had my 3rd surgery, Dr. Job did. It was Job and Dr. Yoakum. And Job, when I woke up, Job was the one, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you, but you got a shoulder that's like a 55, 60-year-old, and we can't do anything. And close back up, and still in your mind, and I mean, you had to have battled through injuries. There's no other way to do it if you're playing football. But
3 shoulder surgeries.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I had labrum, I had cuff. They shrunk my capsule. They didn't even do that anymore.
I had that same thing, capsularorrhaphy.
That sucked. Coming back from that one wasn't fun.
Yeah, it's just because there's no strength left after it. It tightens the joint back up, but there's no strength there.
Well, and our thing, because I threw, is then you had to get it to where there was enough elasticity that you could throw it, and just getting through the scar, whatever. This is boring medical shit, but it was.
I'm with the doctor. I get this all the time.
Yeah, there's like 0 elasticity after that procedure.
It sucked.
For a football player, it's different. We just need it to stay right there.
You didn't want it to move. Mine had to move. And but no, it was. So I called Hendry because Jim was the GM of the Cubs at that point. And I said, hey, I still think I can play. And he called me back and he goes, I got to be honest with you. Like, the reports aren't very good. He goes, I got a job in AA. If you want a job in AA, I got a job in AA. You can go pitch in wherever the hell it was, West Tennessee or something like that. And it took me 2 or 3 days. And finally I woke up, looked in the mirror one day. I'm like, you know what? You ain't good enough anymore. That's just the way it is. You can do whatever you want. You can work your ass. Like, it doesn't work anymore. You're not good. I didn't want to go pitch in AA. If I was going to pitch, I wanted to make sure that I could pitch in the big leagues again, or I'm not going to go back and do it. It's time to do something else. And Jim was the one that, whether intentionally or unintentionally, was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work anymore.
How many full seasons did you get in the bigs? Did you get
none? I mean, I've got a year and a half of time, but it was, I went up at the All-Star break in 99, had my first shoulder surgery. So 2000, I was on the roster the whole year, but I didn't throw a pitch. So how 01 was up for
how does that count toward, like, with your retirement? What's your retirement count for the NFL?
You've got to have 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
And if you're on the active roster, like suiting up for the game, if you're on the active roster for 3 games, it's not a real high threshold, but if you're on the active roster for any 3 games in a given season, that counts as a season.
Yeah.
So you only get a year and a half of retirement time with Major League Baseball?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ours was like 45 days, I think is what it was. So it was cut into corners, or maybe it's 50 days. I don't know what it is, but it was, if you're there 45 days, same thing, active, right? You don't have to play. Not even active. If you're on the DL, it counts. So, yeah, it was like a year and a half, which crazily, I mean, they said.
Yeah, IR counted for us. Yeah. Because I had a year on IR, and that counted towards retirement.
But there's still like a decent amount a month when I'm 60, whatever the hell it is. If I'm still, obviously I should stop doing Zins apparently, but if I'm still hanging around when I'm in my 60s.
Pre-podcast discussion with the doctor.
I mean, for a guy that kind of sucked and won 5 games in his career, they're going to send you a check every month. So, no, the MLBPA they've done a lot of good stuff over the years.
Do you think your shoulder surgery, because you played at a time when Little League coaches were throwing you all the time, and I think Mark was through you.
I'm not sure that's changed any.
Yeah, maybe so. But did you throw way too much when you were younger?
Threw a lot my freshman year. I mean, my freshman year, and I didn't. I threw a fair amount in high school, but then I had a back deal my senior year, so I didn't throw a bunch. And then my freshman year, I mean, I had 10 complete games my freshman year.
In high school or freshman?
College. So I had 18, 19, 20 starts. I had 10 complete games.
Wow.
And I didn't know any different. So it was the days of the 6-team regionals. And we opened with Arkansas. I threw against Arkansas. Went complete, 120, 130 pitches. Then came back on 2 days rest and threw 150 or something against Texas Tech and beat them to get to Omaha. And then came back on 4 or 5 days rest in Omaha and threw a complete game against Clemson. And I went to the Cape to pitch, and I got out there and was done. Which sucked because the Cape is amazing. But I was done. But the other thing is, I wouldn't change one damn thing. Nothing. If it didn't work anymore, it didn't work anymore. I got to pitch in Omaha twice, man. If it blows out and I don't pitch in the big leagues, that's a pretty damn good run. I wouldn't change a thing.
When you were growing up, you played for the Gladiators, correct?
For a little bit, then Pace Center when it started, yeah.
So I guess my point is, back then, and I'm old enough to remember, those were the two teams, right? Do you like where select ball is now? Because I don't even think it's select.
No, I mean, I'll bring it back to my kid. My kid, in quotes, played select basketball growing up until he was in 7th grade. It was select basketball because you wrote a check. I mean, it's the only select thing about it. And there was 18 teams, and they'd slot you and everything else. I don't know. I mean, I think opportunity is a good thing. I don't know how much you guys have talked about this in the past. The specialization stuff is the stuff that drives me nuts. Because I've yet to talk to one college baseball coach that says, I only want the guy that just plays baseball. And especially if you get the kids from the Midwest that are multi-sport guys, when they go to college and they're just focusing on one sport, whatever the hell it is, the jump is many times very different because they're just focused on that for the first time, and it hasn't been year in, year out, or day in, day out for years only doing that. So that's the part that bothers me. But I don't know. The select thing is, if it gives kids opportunity, great. I hate the stories of Jimmy's 4th grade coach said, hey, you can't play basketball because you got to focus on
Well,
basketball.
It's interesting because I'm going to make a lot of people in Nebraska mad for saying this. I think volleyball has ruined high school basketball more than anything because, and you'll hear John Cook, you'll hear Kristen Barenthal Booth, you'll hear these people say, we want multi-sport athletes. Well, then tell your AAU teams your main recruiting season is the AAU season. All these girls are scared to go play high school basketball because they're and it's just your daughter goes to Marion, my daughter goes to Marion. There's a lot of good volleyball players who should be playing basketball, but they don't because they got all this club volleyball stuff.
I've got a niece who plays college volleyball, and she's D1 kid.
She's still at Missouri?
No, she's at Arizona State.
Really? Because she started at Missouri, right?
Ended up transferring, ended up having had a very nice sophomore year at Arizona State. So they had a great run in the tournament as well. But no, talk to my brother about the recruiting process. God, they didn't care about the high school season at all, because your high school team, if you're a really, really good high school team, will have a couple of college volleyball players on it. Your opponent will have one, maybe 2 good college volleyball players on it. You go to the club team, 4 out of 6 are college volleyball players.
Good on good all
4 or 5 out of 6 on the opposing team. Every team you play are college volleyball players. So, exactly. It's good on good every time. And so that's what the coaches want to see. They don't care about your high school tape.
Did you only play baseball in high school?
No, I played sophomore football. So I was telling somebody this the other day. I didn't play freshman. I was 5'6" my freshman year in high school. And there's no way in hell I was playing freshman football at prep. But then I grew and I wanted to play football. So I got out for the football team, and the football coach is a guy named Bob Grant. And he had seen me play baseball, and he gets all excited. He's like, "You're going to be our quarterback. We're going to throw it all around. Like, this is going to be the best thing in the world." Bob Grant had never seen me throw a football. And the first day of sophomore practice started at like 3:30, and at like 4:15, I was a tight end. It did not take long at all. The minute that I could throw a spiral underhand, but I could never throw a spiral overhand. So I played sophomore football, and then I played basketball all the way through. But did like the freshman B team, sophomore team, JV. Finally made varsity my senior year when we were loaded. I mean, it was like Othello went to East Carolina. Pugh went to KU, played in the Final Four. Timmy Ritter went to Notre Dame and played offensive line. Fogarty and Lordson both. I think there was 8 or 9 Division I.
So you were in Ritter's class.
He's a year younger.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had to guard him every day. I didn't guard him or Pugh in practice.
Yeah, my point of reference there is I was a fifth-year senior at Nebraska when he was a senior at Prep. So Nebraska tried really hard to get Ritter, and I remember when he came on his official visit, all of us on the O-line leaning on him to.
Yeah, he's a great dude. He's either a superintendent or a principal out in Colorado right now.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, really good.
Now, he was a great guy, and I mean, God, Nebraska, we wanted him bad. So,
did you go to Stanford with Tiger?
Yeah.
Any good Tiger Woods stuff?
Tiger lived 2 doors down.
But Tiger lives 2 doors down.
My sophomore year. So freshman year, I had a keg in my room. So we went to. I had never seen. I love Jimmy Buffett. I love Jimmy Buffett. And so Jimmy Buffett came to town, and remember Fred Savage, the guy that was on the Wonder Years. So Fred Savage was the same year. Reese Witherspoon was the same year.
Moly.
So
hold on, you got Tiger Woods, Fred Savage, Reese Witherspoon. Anybody else?
No, in the freshman class. No, there was a few others. But well, here's this. So the dude. So freshman year, this guy comes by, and I'm playing like NCAA football on Sega with my roommate, and some guy knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, we just started this thing called a search engine, and if you find a website that isn't on the search engine, we'll pay you $5." And I remember looking at this guy like, what the hell's a search engine? What is he talking? It was the 2 guys that started Yahoo. They were walking around the freshman, because they started it right there. They were walking through the freshman dorm as it was going on. So anyway, we go to the Buffett concert, and my job is to get a keg. So I get a keg and throw it in the back of somebody's pickup, and we go. And I've smoked weed probably 6 times in my life, but it was the first time I ever smoked weed. So the keg's not dead when we get done. So I'm like, well, screw it. I'll bring the keg back into my room. So the keg's in my room, and keep it on ice. And Tiger is, I don't even remember why, but Tiger's in our dorm like a week or 2 later. The keg's still rolling. And I had like a super big gulp cup that was in the room, and I filled it up with beer like we were going to play quarters, except I grabbed 2 golf balls and a sandwich and threw them out in the hallway and said, "Hey, I'm never going to get a chance to play golf with you, so we're going to do it right now." And put the super big gulp at the end of the hallway, and we're trying to chip golf balls in there, and whoever made it, the other guy had to pound the beer. And so technically, I'd say I played golf with Tiger, but that was the extent of it, was trying to chip into a super big gulp my freshman year.
Was he pretty accurate?
He's Tiger, man. I mean, he won. Let's say that.
Man, see, that's a story. I mean, you'll have that the rest of your life. Your kids won't believe you, though.
No. Yeah, they don't believe me. No, most of the stuff I say. But yeah, it was an interesting time to be there. It was a super interesting time because it's when all the internet stuff was going crazy and just getting built. And yeah, I mean, a guy that was like 2 doors down was the 4th guy at Google or something. And I was the idiot playing NCAA football, probably teams that you were on Sega, instead of being the 4th guy at Google.
Bill Walsh. College football.
Well, yeah, Scott was there. Frost was there.
Yeah.
Really?
My freshman year, Scott was, because he's a year older than me, so Scott was there then. I knew him a little bit. I didn't know much, but and then I think it was after that year that he came back. I think he stayed 2 years. Yeah, Walsh made him into a safety.
Yeah, which actually, well,
that's what he played in the NFL, wasn't it?
Yeah. Which I remember Walsh said they interviewed Walsh at one point, asking him about it, because I'm trying to remember. I think the quarterback for Stanford, was that Steve Stenstrom at the time?
Stenstrom was there, and then a guy named Mark Butterfield.
Okay, and I just remember Frost played quarterback a bit, but he couldn't get past Stenstrom, if I recall. And
Stenstrom played for a while.
Yeah, he was a really, really good quarterback. Yeah. But yeah, I remember Bill Walsh saying that if Scott really dove hard into the safety position, Walsh thought he could be the best safety he'd coached since Ronnie Lott.
Yeah, he made the comment. I remember he said, "I think Scott Frost can be an all-pro safety."
Yeah,
and then obviously that's when it worked out pretty well when he came back. But yeah, it was an interesting time.
Hey, quick reminder that Fred is your guy when you want to bet. Now, get the no sweat first bet bonus when you place a qualifying bet of $20 or more. You'll be matched with a Fred bet up to $105 if it loses. Use the promo code RUSH on the BetFred Sports app. Basketball season is back and better than ever thanks to BetFred's new Trade Day promo. Every week, one lucky Wednesday game will be selected as the Trade Day game of the week, where you could get a Fred bet for every three-pointer made by the top scorer. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Wagers only accepted in the states where BetFred is doing business, and you can find those at betfredsports.com. And if you do have a gambling problem, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Connor Orr at Orr in Horrigan is our NIL expert and registered sports agent. Connor is also focused on corporate and personal injury litigation in both Nebraska and Iowa. He can work with you on your business planning, estate planning, and real estate transactions. Call Connor today at 402-408-6488 or visit orrinhorrigan.com. Don't forget about Husker Hounds. They got the Christmas blowout sale going on right now. You can get 50% off some really good items like sweatshirts, hoodies, glassware, and volleyball gear. And the new spring apparel line is coming in February. So 2024, by the way, is going to be Husker Hounds' 29th year in business. 2 locations in the Omaha area. And don't forget about our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union. This will be their 90th year in business this year. 128,000 members strong. They have 15 locations in Nebraska and Iowa, federally insured by NCUA.
Look at your sponsors.
I
got like a full page read right
I go out here and sell this shit, man. That's what I do. That's how this basement takes place, right?
This is legit down there, by the way.
Now, Owen's the visionary, so he's about ready to. We just redid this all not too long ago, and now he wants to rip the whole damn thing up. When are you going to take all the walls out?
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'm going to have time, but I want to get some more. I want to make it a little better down here. Yeah.
Well, he's wanted to redo the desk, which I think is really nice.
I like your. Owen, what do we got to change?
Well, what I want to make it a little more of a set, I think, and I want to do like fabric on the walls for sound deadening all the way around. Okay. I want to get a different lighting in the ceiling, and then I want to do like a tongue and groove wood paneling on that back wall.
We got ideas. Owen's not light on ideas, I don't think. By the way, like a lot of our midweek, if we're going to do like a game on ESPNU or SEC Network, we've got like a 5-camera show. Mm-hmm. We literally have like a 5-camera show when we're sitting right here.
Yes.
No one wants to change anything.
Yeah.
We shoot baseball games like this, and now we're doing a 3-man podcast in the basement.
Yeah, we've got 4 cameras here. Then no one's got a camera on him. 5. We got I think an 8-camera switcher back there. I could add more cameras.
Switcher, look at you.
Yeah, so we're looking for investors. Does D1Baseball.com want to invest?
Well, if you can mix it into the read, then maybe we'll see.
I could easily mix it into the read. Speaking of D1 baseball, 1 month from, well, we're recording this on the 15th, so 1 month from tomorrow, which is the 16th, college baseball starts. Yeah. And the reason we're having you in so early, because I knew if you didn't get in now,
we're not going
to see you till College World Series. I mean, that's how busy you are. I mean, first of all, you get done playing pro baseball, you're probably sitting there going, what the hell am I going to do? I like selling commercial real estate, or maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you want to be a broadcaster. How did you get in with ESPN?
Well, I wasn't doing real estate then. I mean, it was, I got released and tried to trick myself for a month that I could still play. And then I called Scott Boras and said, hey, I'd love to try to figure out some way to get into baseball. And so he called ESPN, and it was just like total dumb luck. 03, so I got released in 03. 03 was the first year of super regionals, and ESPN was putting them on, but it was literally on pay-per-view. So they needed people because they had never had that many games at one time. And so they gave a few of us a chance that had never done it. And they asked for a tape. I'm like, the only tapes I have are like interviews. I've never done a game. So the first game
you had a tape on the KPTM set.
I had that. On the studio. Yeah. Which, by the way, remember Byron Wood?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm working at KPTM. First of all, I wish you could find this. You gave me a camera. I went down and I don't remember who Nebraska was playing, but Wistrom was there, and Wistrom scored a touchdown. And
that was against Michigan State. It was against Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken.
In Lincoln.
He recovered a fumble.
It would have been 95.
Yeah.
It would have been the fall of 95.
Okay.
And it's before I went back to school.
Well, Michigan State was at Michigan State that year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, in 95.
I'm trying to think who
It was in the south end zone.
I remember.
Because when I grew up, we sat in the south end zone. And so I had the camera. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You just gave me a camera and said, go down and shoot stuff. And you ended up using it that night it was one of the proudest moments of my entire life because I had Wistrom framed up going into the end zone. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Then you told me to cut it, and then I really couldn't do it, so you had to cut it. But I don't even know where that story started. But it was at that time, and when I called you, I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Oh, Byron Wood. So I had watched Byron Wood growing up.
Because he was on Channel 6.
He was on Channel 6, and he was there. So I go in the first night, and he's doing the news, and he's got like a sport coat on and sweatpants. And I had no idea because I had never been in there. And he walks out, and he's got sweatpants on. I'm like, Byron Wood wears sweatpants when he's on the news? Like, this is Byron Wood. I didn't know that guys wore sweatpants when they're doing the news. And it totally changed my idea on television at that point.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as most people think.
It's a little different.
So Boris just gets you in then? And
so they said, send a tape and said, hey, we need people. And I had a job lined up. I was going to work on the bond floor of Piper Jaffray in Minneapolis. My wife was working up there, and I didn't know anything about bonds. And I never started. I went, said, I'm going to go do 2 games of the Super Regional, and they gave me a chance. So I go out and do 2 games. They called back and said, hey, we want you to come to Omaha. We don't know how we're going to use you. So I came to Omaha and spent 2 weeks here, and then that got done. And I had told this Piper, I'm like, hey, give me another 2 weeks. Finally, they said, hey, we want you to do some more games. I said, guys, I got a pretty damn good job that's sitting there waiting. So if we're going to do this, I got to have some level of a contract. So they signed me for that year and the following year, and I ended up doing Little League World Series and Major League playoffs that year or leading up to it on radio, and then we were off.
Did you find it hard, and don't take this the wrong way, that maybe – was it hard to promote or move up in ESPN because without name recognition?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was like a 10-year slog, to be honest with you. Yeah, because, I mean, like there was no SEC network. There was no Big Ten network. There was no ESPNU. It was ESPN, ESPN2. That was it. And so we didn't have a whole lot of stuff during the regular season that was on TV baseball-wise. It was just the postseason. Now, I ended up doing some Major League stuff the following year, but most of it was on the sidelines. Every once in a while, they'd mix me into the booth. But yeah, my name recognition, and every year you fight the name recognition battle because more people retire. And so you got more people that are trying to stay around it and getting back in. So it took, I don't know, it had to be damn near 10 years, if not more, of really not being in the booth. When I got to Omaha, I was in the booth leading up to it, but then when we got to Omaha, it wasn't. And Harold was doing it, and I don't remember who else was doing it at the time. But yeah, you always fight that.
You got to pee again, Rob?
Yeah, beer run.
All right. Oh, look at he's making a
You
beer
got one right here. Have this one.
No, yeah, you can grab me another one.
I'm good.
I love this operation.
It's a pretty loose operation. There's no doubt about it. Well, you did some Major League Baseball games. Do you wish you were still doing MLB?
I do the playoffs on radio, like the first round or two every year, which is a blast. So it was me and Dave O'Brien did Blue Jays Twins this year, and then I did a few. It's fun. Those are a blast. You forget how good those guys are. I mean, you do, and the college guys are great. Don't get me wrong, but you go to a big league game and you're like, man, this is. I mean, they really are the best in the world. So now I love my gig. I mean, if I could do a few more, great. But I'll do 60 to 70 games a year, and that's plenty. I love my gigs.
Well, during the pandemic, they moved you to your basement. I remember I was out at your house one day, and you were doing Korean baseball. I think you were getting ready to do a Korean baseball game, and they still had you do some college games from the basement.
Yeah.
Are they totally away from that now? No. You're still doing the basement sometimes?
Yeah, some. Not many, but some. And I think it'll always be that way. I mean, it was interesting because, everything stops during the pandemic, and the Korean KBO, the Korean baseball organization, which I had never heard of up to that point. I knew they had a league over there, and that's when Ruff was playing there. It's when Darren was playing. And it came back. It was the only live sports, professional sports in the entire world. There was nothing else going on. And so ESPN looked at it and said, well, I mean, we do live sports. So if this is the only thing going on in the world, we got to figure out how to get some level of live sports on. So we did 6 games a week. And there was like, I don't know, probably a half dozen of us that rotated through and did them on the analyst side. But I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You go downstairs and flip your kit. They send you all this stuff, and it's like your setup. It's 2 monitors, and you know, I had a headset like I was sitting in the booth and everything else, and they send somebody in to set it up. But then producers in Bristol or Charlotte, play-by-plays in Chicago or Atlanta or wherever, New York, wherever else, games in Seoul. We're getting just a feed that you don't necessarily know what you're going to see because you're getting the international feed, the feed that they would watch if they were in Korea, and we call a game. And it was a riot, aside from the fact that you had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But
did you get a pronunciation guide?
Yeah, kind of. But it was, I remember, it was a long time ago, probably at least 15 years ago. I was doing a game with Gary Thorne at the Little League World Series. We were doing Chinese Taipei in Poland. And they handed him a pronunciation guide before the game, and he wadded it up and he threw it in the corner. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, if I say it with confidence, it's right. So that's what we tried to do on these Korean games. Is first of all, like, nobody in South Korea is watching the game. The only people that are watching the game are degenerate gamblers in the United States. That's it, because they can actually bet on it. So
it's true.
No, it's 100% true. I
True.
would get some of these texts at like 4 o'clock in the morning from people I hadn't talked to in like 9 months. Hey, do you like Samsung or Kia tomorrow? I'm like, come on. Like, that's where we're at right now. You want me to break down tomorrow's KBO action just so you can lay 1.5 against Samsung? And that was where we were.
How good a baseball is it over there? Very
Pretty good.
Is
yeah.
it?
I mean, a few of those guys have come back and have got back into the big leagues. I mean, Darren did it.
Yeah.
I mean, Darren was there for 3 or 4 years and came back, and he's got probably another 3 or 4 years in the big league since he went over there. Yeah, it's good. It's way top heavy. So, like, the depth is not there, but the top players are really good players.
What conversation did I walk into?
What we?
You missed out on the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization.
Damn it. Okay, so see, that was like, that's like my.
Hold on. This, I don't know if cameras are going to pick this. I hope you didn't bring this from me. So I know you could beat my ass like any minute if you wanted to, but I want the entire world to know that you're about ready to drink a salted chocolate peanut butter stout.
Well, I got it for Travis.
Is this a regular thing?
I'll eat
or
carbs.
Is this, okay.
Well, actually, I was going to go with the.
Where'd that come from?
That was from Craig.
This is from Craig in Georgia.
That's from Craig. Craig's our guy in Georgia that hooks us up.
You know, I work at MCL Construction. Yeah. It is now a part-time distributorship because I don't have people ship beer to my house, so all our listeners ship it to MCL.
Really?
Yeah. So during the season, I'm getting beer deliveries on a daily basis.
That's a hell of a way to recruit to MCL. You should walk in the break room, see what we got.
Tony and Bob walk by, they're like, really? More? Do we get any? No, sorry. This is
if you hang out here, people will just send you beer.
They just send you beer.
That's a good
Actually, I was going to go with so I'm not sure where this one's from. This is Wild Leap Alpha Abstraction Pale Ale.
Is that from the St. Louis brewery that we got? It might be. We're on like the straggler cans now because we've kind of picked through it all.
Well, it's Wild Leap.
It means you drink too much. That's what it means.
Yeah. I only drink when Rob comes over, which is kind of crazy. Either that or I'm drinking. If I'm not
drinking wine.
This is from Craig, too. It's from LaGrange, Georgia.
Okay.
So that's got to be from Craig.
Yeah.
Craig gives us cool shit.
Craig seems like a nice guy.
Craig drives up about 4 times a year. His 95, 96-year-old mom still lives here. So he drives from Georgia.
Okay.
And every time he gets in the car, he goes,
he and his son come
got
up.
to stock up.
Load it up?
Yeah, load it up. Yep.
But Craig hooks us up all the time.
Yeah. We got Cody down in Arkansas. He'll bring like 4 cases at a time. And Jason out in
Jason's our man in PA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason and I connected because he's from Nebraska originally. Our sons are the same age, and our sons were high school football players and wrestling background and all that. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
actually, I got a shipment of beer heading out to Jason at the end of the month.
You know, most people think this is a football podcast. It's probably a beer podcast more than.
Is that what this is? This is a football podcast?
Well,
you're doing a terrible job so far.
Well, I mean, during the season it is, but
we talked about your career with Creighton Preps.
It took about 17 seconds to cover that.
Oh man! So Do you start right away on February 16th?
No. We're streaming 5 tournaments this year through D1 Baseball. So I'll go down and do one of those, which
Now, and just a full disclosure, D1Baseball.com is the premier college baseball site. You own that, or a part owner, or a full owner?
No, I mean, I get majority, I guess, but no, not all.
I mean, how expensive is it to put on to stream games? Is that pretty pricey?
Yeah, but it worked last year.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we had never done it and thought we'd try. Now, it doesn't hurt when you get LSU playing and they're number one, and that's the first tournament we did. With the very first game that we streamed, it was LSU. They may have been playing Iowa, and
Iowa won that, didn't it?
Iowa beat them, yeah. So we think everything's all set, and all the numbers going up to it are cool, and you start seeing people that are, because it was kind of a true pay-per-view model last year, and it overloads the server right at the beginning. Like, first time we've ever done this. And for the first 45 minutes, it's like kind of hit or miss and everything else. And I'm doing the game, but then my phone is blowing up.
Are you getting pissed at the same time?
Well, my cell phone is on the like, if you go on D1 and you sign up for a subscription, and it's my cell phone that shows up for customer service. So I am getting blown up.
That's like Kyle's version of we send beer to MCL.
Dude, it was so we get. So Kendall Rogers, one of my partners, is next door. We're trying to finally we get it all figured out. Whatever the rest of it goes, the next 2 weekends go great. But I had 98 voicemails after the game. Like 97 were from the state of Louisiana. And some of these were the greatest voicemails you've ever heard in your entire life. Like, I've never been called names like this in my entire life. You listen to, some of them you listen to and you're like, I don't think they should let that person drive. Like, ever. Not just now because they were watching the game and boozing, but they should not drive at all. But then ultimately all got figured out. And you find, I think that Husker fans are this way to some extent, but in the SEC, they're the happiest people in the world when they're winning. Like, they love you. It's the great. I could not know who won a game, and I could look at the Twitter feedback after the game and tell you who won the game. Because if it's Ole Miss playing Mississippi State and Ole Miss wins, all the Ole Miss fans tell you how great you are, and all the Mississippi State fans tell you how much you suck. It goes every time. The losing fans tell you how bad you were at doing the game and how big of a homer you were, and the winning fans tell you how great of a job.
Did you ever take it personal? When did you learn to let it blow off your shoulder?
Most days I do. There was one last year that I got into it with a guy back and forth, which was stupid. But yeah, hell, they're fans. Thank God for them. If we didn't have them, then we wouldn't have a job. But it's fans short for fanatic. Like, they're in it because they want their team to win, and sometimes the way that they look at the game isn't necessarily from 10,000 feet. It's like they're wearing a jersey.
What's the best place to call a college baseball game?
I love Ole Miss. And I am a little bit biased now because I'm taking my son down there, and I know your daughter works down there, who was a huge help for us, actually, when we were going through everything. I love Ole Miss. I love Mississippi State. LSU's fun just because it's still LSU. They'll end up, I think they're probably going to have to do something at that stadium here pretty quick just to.
Really?
Yeah, that was 15, 18 years ago. And not like knock it down or anything like that. But
well, you know what a shithole is? Haymarket's a shithole now.
Yeah, which is crazy. I'll tell you the other one. Arkansas is a blast. Arkansas is an awesome place to go call a game. Arkansas is probably, especially if you include the indoor facility, I bet over the last 10 years, Arkansas has put damn near $100 million into that facility.
Really?
Oh, it's insane. What they just did beyond right field is they've got 32 suites with a waiting list for baseball. It's crazy.
I don't think Nebraska's got that for football.
I don't think it does either.
Yeah, 32. It's nuts. 32.
But Rob, you looked at me. Haymarket's gone to. It's not a good stadium anymore. They haven't put any money into it. And then you have the ownership and the university. I don't think they play very nice.
They went for years with Buck Belcher.
Yeah, but when Haymarket opened, it was awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say
incredible.
Omaha West Side's high school stadium is better than Buck Belcher.
You had to go West Side. You had to go West Side on that.
I did. Yeah. Sorry, prep kid.
Did you wear the West? Oh, I forgot you had a wrestling meet tonight.
Yeah.
Well, you're surrounded by 3 prepsters. I'm prep honorary because
he's the voice of the Jays. He's the new Barry Silverstein.
When was I don't even remember the last time prep beat West Side in football.
Owen's senior year,
2017.
Was it really?
Before my kid played there.
Yeah,
he's a sophomore in college.
Owen's
now.
senior year. See, he still has that claim to fame.
I think Westside's got 2 double win seasons over prep and football in the last 5 years.
This is my fault.
It is.
I retract that.
He brought up Buck Belcher. And I was there when
that's what we had
when Nebraska.
Remember it? The scouts stood down below.
Yeah,
remember? Underneath the stadium, and you go all the way down there.
You went to Stanford. How hard was it to turn John Sanders down and Jim Hendry down at Creighton?
Well, Jim wasn't there.
Oh, he was? Who was there?
So it was Dom.
Dom already.
But Wenberg had just been there. He left. They didn't really have a pitching coach. But 2 of my closest friends went there to play, and actually, like 4 guys that I played on Pacesetters with growing up all went to Creighton that year. So that was the tougher one. Sanders was different. I mean, he came down and watched the game and said, "Hey, I heard you want to go out of state, and if you want to come down and take a visit, just let me know." And I'm like, no.
It's a very wishy-washy recruiting pitch.
Yeah. So I didn't. But obviously, like the baseball environment at Nebraska then was very different, even though Darren was there. I mean, it's kind of, I think Darren's last year was 94, 95, Erstad.
Yeah.
And that's when everything, he was, and they had some really good players, but they just didn't have it wasn't a team that,
it wasn't good players. It wasn't a good program.
No, it hadn't been. And then, Van Horn gets there and kind of changes absolutely everything, which is crazy.
But Stanford's kind of like Notre Dame in football. If they call, you got to listen, right?
Yeah. What's the recruiting pitch
at Stanford
that Stanford makes? And obviously, I'm just like, what was it about them that made you want to go there?
So the longtime assistant coach at Stanford's a guy named Dean Stotts, and Dean Stotts. I was fortunate when I was growing up. Mike Evans was one of my coaches. Mike was the pitching coach at Nebraska. Was a head coach at Bellevue for a long time. Like baseball mind, about as good as anybody I've ever seen in my life. Well, Dean Stotts is the other one. And Stotts was a recruiting coordinator. Could have been head coach at a bunch of different places, had played at Stanford. That's where he wanted to raise his family. So he comes in and sits down and says, "Hey, I don't know if you're ever going to play for us. I honestly don't know. You might. I'm not sure. You get an opportunity. You can come in and compete against everybody else, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're going to play. I don't know. But if you're good enough, we'll give you a chance." And I signed for 10%. And when he left, I remember I looked at my dad. I'm like, okay, does he want me to go there? Does he not want me to go there? I'm trying to figure out exactly what just happened. But the fact that somebody was honest enough to walk in and go, "Dude, I don't know. I mean, we think you're probably pretty good, but shit, we're not going to know until you get there. But if you are good enough, you're going to play. And if you're not good enough, you're not going to play." Kind of at that time, I'm like, yeah, that's somebody I want to go play for. And it was fortunate. We were good. I mean, we had some dudes when I got out there, and it was a really cool run.
You were the Pac-10 freshman of the year?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and actually national that year. But,
oh, really? I should know that.
We tricked him that year. A whole lot of change-ups, Trav. We tricked him the whole year.
In all seriousness, baseball's starting, and when you're down south, it's a lot easier. Nebraska's going to open up at the Shriners Children's College Showdown. They start with Baylor, Texas Tech, then Oklahoma. But let's be honest, this is February 16th. These northern schools, is there any way to alter the college baseball schedule, or is it just too hard because they've already pushed the World Series back to later in June to when you played?
Oh, hell, it's almost a month later.
Yeah, a month later.
Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't seem like it's not working.
When you played, when was the College World Series?
Late May, first week of June?
Yeah, I feel like it was.
Wow.
At the latest, it was early June.
Yeah.
God, I don't know. I'm sure it's just weird memory, but I don't remember it ever being that early. That's odd.
There was only one round of the postseason, so it cut the season by a week because there was just a region.
Yeah,
there was
and that's the thing is like, I kind of really started following college baseball when Van Horn got to Lincoln.
That's when a lot of the states started following.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Creighton's run the one year, and obviously what Jim did there. But then when Dave showed up, it changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's when everybody started paying attention, and all of a sudden it's regional and super regional. And
it was Coleman A, and then Jabba got there, and obviously Gordon and the run that they had. I mean, listen, there's always the stories of Best coaching job ever. What Van Horn did at Nebraska, based on what he walked into. And when he got here, I think they were still at Buck Belzer. I don't think they had moved.
No, you're right.
I think they won just after.
The first year they qualified for the World Series was at Buck Belzer.
Yeah, on the turf infield, grass outfield. Like what that dude did here is fascinating when you look at just the status of college baseball and the way that it is. Because, I mean, obviously it's very dominated by the South. It was all dominated by the South and the West at that point. But it was unheard of to do what he did.
It was not a baseball school.
No, but there was dudes like, I mean, this is a good baseball state, and it's always been a good baseball state. And guys kind of went all over the place a little bit, but he kept a lot of them here.
Do you think Nebraska can ever get back to what it was, or is it harder now being in the Big Ten as opposed to the Big 12?
It's harder now. I mean, bringing UCLA, SC, Oregon, Washington in helps. I mean, two of those teams have been to Omaha in the last 5 years.
You know what? I didn't even think about baseball for the Big Ten. Didn't even think about it with that.
Okay, well, let me back up here on this. That's a super interesting question for me, because when I thought about great baseball as a kid, I mean, you thought about Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from Big 8 to Big 12, but I mean, all the Texas schools, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about Rice, you think about Texas, you think about Texas Tech, you think about A&M.
I think about USC.
Well, and I get that too. I guess I'm just saying that. I mean, I think about where Nebraska was at, and then you go to the Big Ten, and I swear to God, it's almost like it's had a harder row to hoe in the Big Ten than it has in the Big 12.
I think it's tougher to recruit. I think it's tougher to recruit the Texas kid when you're in the Big Ten. I think it's a lot easier to recruit the Texas kid when you're in the Big 12, to where you know you're going to play some of those teams.
That makes sense.
And that's where you're going to pull some dudes out of. But that being said, I mean, listen, Michigan played for a national title a few years ago. Indiana made it here. Like, the Big Ten has made huge strides in baseball in the last 10 years as opposed to what they had done since Larkin was at Michigan. I mean, they essentially went Larkin at Michigan to Indiana, and I don't think there had been one Big Ten team that made the College World Series. So it's a significantly better league than it used to be, but bringing those guys in, and SC has not been very good, honestly, for the last 15 years, but it's still SC. Like, they'll be all right. They'll get back there, and they were better last year. But it's UCLA. Oregon was damn close. Washington was here a few years ago in the College World Series.
Oregon State's had those great teams.
Oregon State had great teams, but got hosed out of the Big Ten. But yeah, from a Big Ten standpoint, man, the league it got better with them coming in.
Yeah, because I always thought basketball, football. I didn't put baseball in. I'm like
wrestling, volleyball.
Yeah, volleyball would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying Big Ten was great in wrestling and volleyball.
Yeah. How'd that wrestling go last Friday?
Wait,
the Iowa-Nebraska matchup.
Iowa's still Iowa, dude.
They won 7 out of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know exactly what it is.
Dude, Nebraska found it anyway.
I'll say this about Hutmacher. The dude's a beast. He's just not in wrestling shape.
No, he's not.
He's
but
not.
I mean, he got out-wrestled. But that might be the first time since he was maybe like a sophomore in high school that he got. Actually, you know what? So I
didn't lose in high school.
I did a deep dive into this. So this is wrestling's kind of like that's my junkie sport. I'm a wrestling junkie.
Was it growing up too, or you just?
I didn't wrestle until junior high.
Okay,
which is kind of weird because even you go back to the 1970s, 1980s. The guys who wrestled started wrestling when they were like 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Travis knows. He's from Iowa.
I'm from Iowa. It's true.
So I was kind of a latecomer to it. And it's the one sport I ever did that I liked practice.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you talk to most athletes. And so let me ask you a question. You loved playing baseball, right? Did you love practice?
No, because we had to run.
Yeah. I mean, I loved football. I loved playing football. I loved being a football player. I did not like football practice. Yeah. I loved wrestling practice. Lost
Why?
my sophomore and junior years to shoulder injuries. There was two out of the 3 surgeries right there. I just did. I loved it.
Okay. That's a weird one to like because you're running all the time.
It was
trying
brutal.
to lose weight.
It was well, I was a heavyweight. Of course, I was a 210-pound heavyweight going against 285-pound guys. The wrestling people listening to this will get it. I was Greg Kirkvliet before Greg Kirkvliet. Anyway, no, but I love the sport. I love doing it. Anyway, where was I going with this?
I have no idea.
Talking about loving practice.
Yeah, loving practice.
Yeah, this is like back to the Iverson deal. No, there's
Practice.
not a whole lot.
Practice.
We're talking about practice.
Not a game.
Yeah.
We won't let you out of here before you talk about Husker baseball.
Yeah, we wandered
What is
there,
the
sorry.
prognosis for Husker baseball this year?
I don't know. I mean, I think, when Will got here, I think given the history and what had happened at A&M and everything else, I do think there was some probably which, I mean, this is kind of what fans are based on, but I think some unrealistic expectations about just immediately like we're going to a super. And it's still hard to do here. It's really hard to do here. I think he's done a really good job of keeping in-state kids. I mean, you were talking about, I don't know if we were doing it here. Yeah, you're talking about it here with the Christo kid.
Yeah.
Like Stanford was all over him. Stanford really wanted him, and obviously he stayed put. So I think Will's done a really good job of that. But then it's a matter of staying healthy and honestly having a few kids that show up that maybe you think aren't quite there and end up getting there. But I would think they're going to be competitive. The challenge, I mean, you were talking about the first few games, like I think that's always the toughest thing. I mean, you're coming out. So what do they go? Baylor, Tech, OU. Then they go play Grand Canyon. Who's actually, I mean, Grand Canyon is a pretty good club last year.
College of Charleston.
College of Charleston down there too, and South Alabama, who's a regional team, usually once out every 2 years. I mean, that's what you open with. It's the biggest Midwest challenge. I mean, you can. I don't care what indoor facilities you have, and I know that Nebraska probably has as good indoor facilities as anybody in the country from a baseball standpoint. It's still different when you get outside. It's just it's different, and so you got to kind of hope you get some RPI builders early that you can steal a win or two, and then ultimately when you actually know what your club is, then get into Big Ten and make a run.
So when do you start hitting the road? You know, got your schedule up yet?
No, early March. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll kind of start in March and then we're off.
Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
You come back again sometime?
Yeah.
We
it's a football show, so I don't know if you want me back. But.
It's an everything show. It's a history show. It's a beer show. It's whatever. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Just look for Doc Talk Sports on YouTube. Follow Dr. Rob on Twitter at Doc Talk Sports. Like our Facebook page. And yes, even follow us on TikTok. Big thanks to Husker Max for distributing this podcast. Head to huskermax.com for the latest news and opinions from a variety of voices about Nebraska athletics. For Kyle Peterson, for Dr. Rob Zatechka, and the visionary, Mr. Owen Justice. By the way, go to owenjusticemusic.com and look up his album Upstream on wherever you stream your music. Give it a listen. And we had a lot of comments in YouTube about your music, Owen. So people are listening. People are listening. Just to let you know. And if you want to book him, go to owenjusticemusic.com. We'll see you next time on the Doc Talk Podcast presented by BetFred Sports.